What is going on, everyone? I'm going to be your host this week. Justin Van Zuden is out on vacation, so hopefully he has a good week with the family. He's ready to go next week. I got two new co-hosts with me. First off, let's start with Jacob Horton, aka Hondizzle. Been on the show quite a few times. So how are you doing tonight? And appreciate you hopping on.
Doing great. Summer started, first day of junior golf camp. I wish I was at the Memorial having like all the different flavors of the milkshakes, but stuck here in the Texas heat, ready to try to grind out a good week in DFS golf.
Yeah, you're going to hear a lot of milkshake talk this week, more than any other, I'm sure. And now let's bring another co-host, the smoothest voice in DFS, Trae Schwabe. How you doing? Did I say your last name right? I've always just called you.
No, it's not like Charles Schwab. It's Schwabe. We got an E on the end.
Okay.
So not Matthias Schwabe. It's Trae Schwabe. So. Hey, I'm happy to be on the show. I've watched it obviously a lot over the years, and it's nice to be here on the show. So I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Well, let's quickly recap last week's event. It was quite the Sunday. We had all the leaders pretty much fall there the last couple hours. I think there were 5 guys that were 10 under or better, and all you needed to get into the playoff was 9 under par. So Sam Burns ends up getting the job done. Just wanted to get your general takeaways from the tournaments, any notes you guys had, and then we'll hop into this week's event. So Jacob, let's start with you.
So I grew up right around the corner from that golf course. I've been to it tournament probably 20 times, played it a handful of times. Got to walk it this last week on Wednesday during the pro-am. It's nice to see an old style golf course still hold its own. Obviously, the wind helps. It's a good venue. Ball strikers course. You saw when the wind gets up, it doesn't have to be a long golf course. You have to be able to manage their golf all around that place. So sort of nice to see, not a runaway shootout for the second week in a row. I think it's kind of interesting. Next year, they're talking about flipping the 9s. They're going to redo the golf course. So they could finish on that horrible horseshoe with number 9 was like one of the hardest holes on the courses last year. So could be for a little more drama in the years to come.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, that 3-hole stretch, pretty brutal. And yeah, like you said, the course held its own. Anytime you get a single digit winner, it ends up being a really good test for these guys. Trae, what about you?
I didn't think that Scheffler would fall back that much, and it made for great TV at the end. And with Burns posting a decent number, and then just having to wait for 2 hours but Scheffler still gritted it out, made that tough putt at the end and got into the playoff. I thought Scheffler would have it in the playoffs just because Burns hadn't played so long, that conditions had changed. The greens had gotten faster, burned out a little bit, and thought Scheffler would take care of business. But hey, it's golf, and Burns nailed that long putt. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, so Scheffler, first round since 2009 U.S. Open, then he didn't record a birdie. So if you would have told him you just needed 1 birdie to win the event, I'm sure he would have taken that, before his round started. But like you mentioned, he gritted it out, made a lot of tough pars there down the stretch to get himself into the playoff. But Burns, the second time this season, drains a long one from off the green for a win. Did it at Valspar to beat Davis Riley. We saw Davis Riley up there on the leaderboard as well. But we got to talk about Harold Varner. So I had an outright on this guy. Also had a top 10 on this guy. Wasn't sweating the top 10 too hard. I figured that one was pretty safe. He's in the middle of fairway on 12, tied for the lead. What happens? Either one of you. I mean, how does this? He goes triple, double, triple, and then adds 3 more bogeys to the card.
He tends to do that outside of the big Saudi win. He just not a Sunday guy. He just seems to find ways to lose there. And one last thing about Scotty Scheffler, I read a very interesting story here. maybe he had something else in the back of his mind, and he had a wedding to attend right after the tournament. I don't know if you guys saw that or not, but his sister-in-law was married yesterday, and he thought that he would have plenty of time to make the ceremony, and the tournament was running a little slow, and then he made the playoff, and it didn't look like he was going to make it, but sure enough, he made the wedding. It was kind of an interesting story to see him there. Just hour, I mean, it's a 3-hour trip right out of there from the Colonial, and made the wedding. Kind of a neat story there. But HV3 he just to me not a Sunday guy. He just can't close the deal on the PGA Tour. Nice win he had in Saudi, but I don't look to play him on round 4 showdowns at all.
Yeah, I think it was Kyle Porter that said usually when someone wearing Jordans posts a triple-double, it's usually good news. But yeah, not on Sunday. A couple other notable finishes. Patrick Reed back in the top 10. Sounds like he switched his driver back to his old one from PXG. So that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. And then Mito Pereira bouncing back after, the meltdown of the PGA Championship. So Jacob, any final notes on the Charles Schwab Challenge?
So a little bit of a jump ahead, but I walked so that we walk as golf professionals. I walked both the Nelson and the Colonial. The Pro-Am is 2 different pros for 9 holes. So this week at Colonial, I had Billy Horschel, and then I had Davis Riley, and was really kind of outside of playing Davis occasionally, was unfamiliar with him, got a chance to walk him for 9 holes. Super nice kid, got to talk a little bit about golf stuff and who he works with on his swing and his, kind of his philosophy, and started doing a little digging. It's a kid that I'm kind of interested in moving forward. He was the runner-up. I don't know if you know this, Noto, the 2013 U.S. Junior Amateur to Scotty Scheffler. Assessed a 1-shot penalty to himself in the final round and lost. And then year after that, he was the runner-up 2014 to Will Zalatoris. So
that's wild.
So some pedigree there that maybe we've kind of, or at least I think I've not paid attention to. Had a pretty decent career at Alabama's, won twice on the Korn Ferry Tour. And if anything, we've seen that with these young guys, they're more prepared to win than ever before. So, and once they win, sometimes they win a lot. Sam Burns, Scotty Scheffler, 2 years ago at this time, neither one of them, I don't think, had a victory. And what have they had, like 7? Yeah, so kind of someone I'm paying attention to.
Yeah, that's a cool story. Something about, self-assessed penalties kind of make golfers more likable. So, yeah, that's cool. So, yeah, you got Riley, you got Zalatoris, and you got Cam Young all looking for their first win. All of them are going to be in the field this week. So before we talk about the Memorial, quick plug, head on over to scoresandodds.com. We have your betting advice for every sport you can think of. The MLB team's been crushing. I've been on a little bit of a heater for NBA. We obviously have our golf picks posted each and every week. So check it out for daily expert picks, analysis, and tools to make you a better sports bettor. Now let's get into the Memorial. This is going to be Jack's tournament. Jack's course, Muirfield Village Golf Club. And the course, it's been lengthened. It is now playing as a par 72 that measures over 7,500 yards. It's in Dublin, Ohio. Pretty classical golf course. Water is going to be in play on 13 of the 18 holes. The fairway is pretty generous off the tee, 34 yards wide on average, and they are pretty important to hit. The rough's going to be thick. It had a renovation prior to last year, and a lot of the golfers didn't like it because the course played even tougher than before. So I do expect it to be a tough test, similar to last week, especially with the added length. The greens themselves are pretty small, 5,000 square feet on average. Feature bent grass greens, and basically the winner is going to be a really good golfer. The last 4 winners at this course: Patrick Cantlay, John Rahm, Bryson DeChambeau. You could argue that Rahm should have 2 wins since he had to withdraw with COVID last year. And then Colin Morikawa won the workday here. So we should expect a pretty good winner. There's a lot of risk-reward shots here. It's going to create a lot of birdies and a lot of bogeys with water being in play, with these greens being so small. Going to have to be a good scrambler. And, yeah, that's kind of how I see the course playing out. What are some of the notes you guys have, and maybe some player archetypes that you're looking at this week? Trae, we'll start with you.
This week, I've kind of focused on projected ownership. So most of my takes are going to be kind of geared in that light. But, course history gets a big bump this week. It's such a tough course, even though we've had this recent change 2 years ago. It's just, even though we've seen some players break through to get their first victory here, they have had some history here. So I really am going to lean a little bit towards course history here, especially in the early part of the projected ownership cycle. But tough course. The one thing that's going to be nice, at least, is that it doesn't look like we're going to have any wind. Wind has been such a big story the last few weeks. So it's kind of nice looking at Wind Finder earlier today. I don't think we're going to have to worry about that as much, but the rough's going to be, awful. They got to keep it in the fairway, and the greens are going to be faster than last year, I believe.
Yeah, glad you bring up course history. We've seen this is the fifth most predictive course history on the PGA Tour. So outside of Bay Hill, Augusta, Harbour Town, those are some of the few that have the most repetitive course history. And man, I'm glad we have it on the show. We talk about ownership a lot, but we probably don't factor it in enough, because that's really become what DFS is about these days. So glad to have you on, Trae. Jacob, any other thoughts on the course before we get into the player pool?
Sure. So a couple of quick notes. A week from today, a lot of these guys that are not already exempt will be playing in a 36-hole USGA qualifier in that area, the biggest one. So you can kind of look at that and see, what guys are not already in that are going to be playing, guys like Ricky and such. So course, Jack Nicklaus. I always think of golf professionals that played on tour building courses that they like. Jack hits high fades, hits the ball a long way, accurate iron player. So something you can kind of think about. So like looking at course history this week, thinking about what guys haven't played well there and then why. Maybe start the conversation with somebody like Cameron Smith. Why hasn't that guy played well there? But so like you think about winners in the past. I mean, Tiger, right? Able to do whatever he wants with the golf ball, hits it a mile, hits it high, Cantley, Rahm, Morikawa. Then you'll get some random winners, and I think that just shows that when a golf course is hard, when it plays really hard, you can get somebody like William McGirt winning, right? Or even I hate to put him in the same category, I apologize to him, but Jason Duffner winning for the second time, somebody like that, right? So not always the studs, but I definitely think elite second shot players, guys that manage their strategy well.
And I'll never forget the Dirt McGirt win. It takes you back to the Draft Street days. I was painting my garage, and he pulled it off. So, that ended up being a good week for me. So hopefully we can draw on that. Now, let's get into the player pool. We have 5 guys above 10K on DraftKings this week. Starting at the very top with Jon Rahm, as mentioned. He won here in 2020. Probably should have won here last year. Was forced to withdraw after the end of the third round. I think he had a 5 or 6 shot lead. And then Patrick Cantlay ended up getting the job done in the playoff against Morikawa. So are we starting lineups up there? How does his ownership look? What are you guys' thoughts on Jon Rahm? Trae, we'll start with you.
Rahm comes in not in the best of form. He's just doesn't look nonverbals aren't really there. He's very frustrated, especially with the short game, but man, it's going to be hard. He's got to be really pissed about last year. He just wants to settle the score, I think. He's extremely motivated, and I think Rahm plays really great when he's pissed. Not too pissed, but a little pissed. And I think that Rahm really is motivated to finish what he started last year. But still, I mean, he's coming in, recent form, not so good last 12 rounds. And, conversely speaking, Rory's numbers are just off the charts. He across the board, approach, off the tee, around the green, all solid. And those are going to be the top stats that people are going to be looking for starting out this week. Cantlay, the course horse right here. I mean, he's got the best, course history here in the last 5 years, but coming in the worst form really of these top 5. Really disappointed everybody at the PGA. So even though he's the course horse, I think he's going to come in. Him and Morikawa are looking at least early in the week as the most lowest owned going in. Rory probably going to take the early lead. I would think that Rahm's going to generate some narrative as the week goes on. So I think he will close the gap a little bit. But you never know. I have to go in each week with an open mind and not. I just have to. It's very unpredictable where those narratives go. Just have to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, I would love to see the behind the scenes nature of trying to predict ownership. So yeah, that's a lot of fun. You mentioned John Rahm's short game struggles. He's lost around the green in 6 of his last 7, and the one he won in Mexico. So I think if his short game shows up, he's going to be there again. Rory kind of checks all the boxes, but doesn't have the best course history. You mentioned Cantlay. Anytime you get him, not in a major, seems to be playing well these days. I don't know what it is right now. You kind of expect him to, make that breakthrough in the majors, sooner rather than later. I think, if Morikawa's ownership ends up, in this range, the lowest of the bunch, I think he'll probably be my favorite play. A guy that I don't use a lot, but you mentioned the fade, Jacob. You mentioned the iron play. Being a second shot golf course, he's one of the better, total drivers of the ball as well. He has a second here last year, and then he won the workday. So the iron play has really been coming around the last couple of weeks. He's just been missing a lot of putts, and we know with him, he's going to have spike week putting. So I think Morikawa was interesting. Xander's probably the safest of the bunch. He's a guy who play a ton in DFS because the floor is so high. But Jacob, who are a couple of guys you have on your radar this week above 10K?
So starting out a few Monday builds, messing around with some roster construction. I love Rahm, but your rosters don't look as good. I mean, I think there's a lot of value at the bottom this week, I think. So, you can definitely fit Rahm in and strong play. For me, Rory's almost always a stay away. Do you have any strong biases like that, either of you? I mean, I've just always it's a guy that I just don't play. And when I do play, I always get burned. So I don't mind any of the other top end spins. I think that you can fit 2 of those guys in a little easier than you can try to fit. I mean, it's pretty hard to fit in a Rahm and, like a Xander. So you could fit in Colin and Patrick and Xander pretty easily with a 9K guy and some strong options, value plays down below. But definitely, I mean, Rahm's game suits this place. I mean, his preferred shot is a high fade, right? Strong, built like Jack, golf course fits his eye. And we've seen that I love course history places because the courses are played pretty predictable. I mean, you look at Tiger throughout the years, right? I mean, he's played well here, played well at the Masters, pretty much everywhere. But Bay Hill, those courses tend to lend themselves to guys that do the same thing over and over. And that's what Rahm wants to do. He wants to hit a high cut, and he kind of knows his way around this golf course. So no problem there playing him this week. I really like calling it early projected low ownership. I think the guy gets a little bit underlooked because he hasn't played as well early this season, but we're looking at a guy that I think will be number 1 in the world before too long.
Yeah, Jacob, we all have those guys that don't treat us right in DFS. Morikawa was one of them for me, but I haven't learned from my mistakes. I still go back to the well and get burned time and time again. So we'll see how Rory plays. It will be interesting. I mean, he checks all the boxes, Trae, like you said. His stats look amazing right now, coming off 3 straight top 10 finishes. And Jacob, to your point, getting 2 of these guys in the same lineup is a little more viable this week than most weeks because the bottom of the field isn't very good. You can probably cross off, 10 to 15 golfers in the 6Ks that this is an invitational. So it's not like the top 120 golfers in the world. And then you're only going to see, you're probably going to see, 55+% of the field make the cut. So some of these value plays, have a better chance to make a cut than they would in a full field of 156. Do we have any other thoughts on the 10Ks? Are we ready to move on?
One last thing I'll say, and just setting up the projected ownership for this week, I did notice that, and I always go back. I go back as much as 5 years. I've been doing this since 2016. So I'll go back and look at similar tournaments, and most times, like the Memorial, has been so solid and consistent over the years. I'll go back for the last 5 years and look at the pricing, look at the setup, and this year is definitely a lot looser, probably not nearly as tight as it has been the last few years. So I think that will enable a little bit more play in the top 5 positions here. So I think we're going to have a little bit more ownership there as compared to the last couple of years.
Love it. All right, let's stay in the 9K range. Trae, why don't you walk us through how the ownership is shaking out and anybody you might have your eye on?
Right now, the ownership is going to be pretty evenly distributed. Spieth is just on a heater. He's just, we're still hard for me. We talk about biases. Spieth doing great off the tee. He's doing still not computing for me really, but it's happening. And the weak link is some of the short putts again. So, but this is a course that he has had some success in, and compared to Cameron Smith and Zalatoris and Hovland and Hideki, he has the best history there in the upper 9K range. He's already getting a little bit of buzz already, so I think he's going to be the chalk there in that area. But Zalatoris is not going to be too far behind. Hovland just keeps dropping in price, and sets up to be pretty good value there at just 9.3. But again, around the green, snafus are going to, temper some of that ownership. He probably will go back a little bit. But overall, I think Spieth is going to be a good play. Cam Smith's just such a wild card. He putts well. He's gritty as heck, but can he stay out of trouble off the tee here? Hasn't done that well here at all, so we'll see.
Yeah, Cam Smith's course history, man. I've gone back a couple times just to make sure I had it correct. Just so weird. He's 2 of 6, and his best finish is T65. For a guy that led the field in tee to green at the PGA Championship, won the Players earlier, won the Tournament of Champions. I think he's top 5 in the world now. So it'll be interesting to see how his ownership adjusts throughout the week. I can't wait to see that. I can't decide if I want to be way overweight or fade him completely. Jacob, what are your thoughts on Cam Smith? Are you buying into the bad course history, or is he just a different golfer now?
So I've never played Muirfield, but I think you have played, you played Sawgrass, correct?
Yeah.
So you think about, you go around that golf course. I played it this year during the week of the Masters. And I mean, anybody that can shoot those scores in that course, you have to go, wow, it's pretty impressive, right? There's a lot of subtle misses out there. So I'm kind of wondering if it's a ball flight issue, right? The ability to, flight it to some of those greens, or does he get too wild off the tee? So, I'm out. No Cam Smith for me this week. Easy fade. Hasn't played well there. It'd be different if, he was going to be 6%, but he's going to be right up there with Jordan or Will. And Will hasn't played. He's only played here once, but he's a guy that, he missed the cut, but he would be a guy that I would take more of a chance on just because of the strategy that he employs in golf. He's pretty patient, high shots, middle of the green, doesn't, takes what the golf course gets him. So definitely no Cam Smith. I like Jordan and Will. Not sure about Victor, and always like Hideki and Matthew at those prices. I think they're both viable, great second shot guys. Super consistent.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've seen a lot of golfers kind of get their stepping stone win at this event. Cantlay, Bryson, I think Hideki, the biggest win at the time, came at this course. So, maybe you get a Zalatoris, Hovland. Hovland's won a lot, just nothing big yet. Fitzpatrick's won 7 times on the European Tour. He's yet to win on the PGA Tour. So it wouldn't surprise me to see one of those 3, kind of break out and get their first win. I'm kind of leaning towards Fitzpatrick as the safer option in cash games. I like the Zalatoris call. The tougher the course, the better he seems to play. Like you mentioned, he just likes hitting the middle of the greens. Hits the ball high, hits the ball far. That should be a good recipe for success here. I worry about Hovland's around the green. I guess you could argue the opposite in that if he's hitting more greens than everyone else, that he won't have to scramble as much. But that does worry me a little bit. Hideki always scares me with the injury concerns. We just never really know what's going on there. So yeah, a lot of question marks in this range, and I don't have a strong take. Is everyone playing Shane Lowry, Trae?
Yes, he's going to be heavy, at least early in the week. Just the odds value, the recent form, second shot courses. This course should be, although he doesn't have the best course history to date here in the last 5 years, but he's just riding a heater. His last 5 tournaments have just been very solid. His recent form in the last 12 rounds are in the top 5 in the field. So yeah, he's going to be hot early on. I would suspect though that he would be a pretty good target to pivot away from later in the week. For me right now, projecting ownership is kind of, it's in 3 cycles now. The first part of the week, when I first started doing this in 2016, 2017, I really just had to do it once a week and just watch out for withdrawals. And that was pretty much it. It was just what were the best values, what was the best course fit and course history, and we were good. I was done by Tuesday. Just watch out for withdrawals. It was easy. Then all the touts came, and we had lots of narratives that started to pick up steam. So, and now towards the end of the week, Wednesday late afternoon, the most important thing for me to project ownership is the current projected ownership. People want to know, am I going to eat this chalk or am I going to pivot off? Where am I going? I got to have my leverage. I know I can't, I'm not going to get the optimal cash lineup. Never going to win the GPP. A roster that's average 15, 16, 18% ownership, not going to get there. And so you've got to get some leverage. You got to de-optimize. So for me, at the very end of the week, I have to figure out what is the good chalk, what chalk can defend their ownership, and what chalk is easy to pivot from. And that's been the most challenging part here in the last 2 years. And I would suspect, now I got to keep an open mind, but I think Shane Lowry will be a pivot away from target as the week progresses.
It would be great. Far too often, I like a guy early in the week, and then I'm like, oh no, he's going to be too high owned, and then I get off of him, and then everyone else does the same thing, and he ends up being lower owned than anybody thought. So, yeah, very interesting to hear all that. One other note in this range, Jordan Spieth. So, didn't have the best course history. When he was in his prime, he was kind of a guy that had one top 10 finish. And then the last 3 years when he's been struggling, he's finished 7th, 13th, and 18th. We mentioned, he's a lot better off the tee now, playing well. Maybe Spieth's the guy for me in this range, even though he's going to be pretty popular. Any other thoughts before we head to the next range?
Good. Let's go AK.
All right, let's get into the AKs. Trae, start us off again. It's a good to start with ownership and kind of go from there. So
we got some interesting dynamics here in the AK range because we got a couple of young studs moving up and great form, surprising. They just won't go away. Cameron Young and Davis Riley, they just won't go away. They're always on top of the leaderboard, and you just feel like one or both of them are about to get a big victory, and this would be. We have a history of this place giving that first big breakthrough win, but man, it's sticker shock. I mean, Cam Young right there with Sung Jae and Max Homa and above Berger and Connors and Joaquin Neiman. It's just, but you look at the stats, you look at the recent form, you look at the positions that he's finished in. He deserves to be there, but it's still just a little bit weird to look at. I think that. Their ownership is going to be, at least initially, a little bit dampened just because of the rise in price. But there's definitely a really significant pressure point there in Cameron Young and Davis Riley. I'm really interested to see the industry and the community, how they're going to reconcile that and how the narratives are going to roll. But I think they're going to hold their own. I have a feeling that Berger's going to get beat up in this range. Sung Jae is going to lose out, and I just don't think Answer can defend his ownership. So I think Riley and Young are going to be some viable plays here. I think they're going to have solid ownership.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue against them at this point, other than the ownership and the price. I do think course history, might sway me off of them just a little bit. Just looking at some of the, really good players priced around them, their first trips to this place. Homo was 37th, Sung Jae 57th, Fitz miscut, Zalatoris miscut, Rahm miscut, Xander first cut. So all these guys have struggled a bit their first time around Muirfield. Doesn't mean, we're going to see that, be the case with those two, but it worries me a little. Jacob, what are your thoughts on those two?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at, so I thought about this a lot in the last week or two, perception versus reality of what is a tour player's week like. They get on ground Monday, they might play 9 holes in the Pro-Am. They get a full day of practice Tuesday. They only play 9 holes on Wednesday, tee it up on Thursday. So you got 2 guys that have never seen this course probably, trying to figure it out. You could make an argument for being underweight, but if you're taking a long-term approach, I think that they're not guys I would X out of my pool. I want some of them. I think they're going to win sooner than later. So it's one of those deals you could be even with or a little bit under and feel okay about it because I don't see anybody going super overweight on those guys. A lot of pedigree there. And they've been playing well of late. And I think that more than anything, that matters right now on the tour. They have a small window sometimes to maximize a whole season, right? So definitely like both those guys out on Berger, and pretty much that range below. Not a whole lot of interest till we get to like 8K and below for me. I think I'd rather pay down and then pay up, not get stuck there. But I think there's enough upside in Young, Riley, and Homa. I mean, who doesn't like Max Homa in his world of Twitter, keeping us interested and laughing. So, I mean, the guy's a great ball striker and kind of another guy that's already won a few times and has won at some good venues and good courses.
Yeah, Homa's a guy that sandwiched right between Young and Riley. Looks like he's going to be pretty popular, but yeah, he's been playing awesome. I think he's had T13 or better in 4 straight starts. And, his short game wasn't great last year, but it has made some strides this year, especially the putter. So I don't mind looking at Homa. T6 here last year, which is pretty impressive. Berger, man, a guy that I usually like to be overweight on, but not great on par 72s, especially long ones. Not great on courses that don't have Bermuda greens, so that's interesting. Connors, after he burned everyone at the PGA Championship, I like going back there, but I think everyone is going to be going back there. It doesn't seem like the early days of DFS, if somebody was popular and ended up missing the cut, they were extremely low on the next week. It seems like it's the opposite effect. Now the DFS industry is too sharp. Have you seen that too, Trae?
Oh yeah, definitely, and especially in the showdown. I've begun to do round 3 and round 4 projected ownership now for DraftKings showdown slates, and round 3, people they'll just pivot off the guy who played poorly, or they won't play the guy who played great in the 3rd round, and they'll just try to find the guy who played horrible the 3rd round to go chase on round 4. So it was really, round 3 is difficult for me to project because they go off the numbers. They're seeking leverage so hard, and it's difficult for me to project round 3. Round 4 is a lot easier because of the placement points, but people. They're seeking leverage all the time. So they will go back to, looking at these initial numbers, Berger's going to get a kick up. Answer's going to get a kick up on the next update just because they're so low. People will jump on that.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that about, round 3, round 4, because, I'll go to build my teams. And if it isn't a good golfer near the top of the leaderboard, no way I'm playing those guys. They can't sustain that pace.
No way. And now so Stallings and Todd, they kind of blew it they didn't do too bad,
Yeah.
I just crushed their ownership because, nobody's going to stick around with John Huh on the 4th round. Nobody's going to do that. Come on.
And I always think, these guys are going to be popular because they're right up near the top of the leaderboard, and then nobody plays them. So just constantly out thinking each other. Anyone else in the AKs? Answer showed up at the PGA, then struggled again last week, missed the cut in Texas. He's from Texas too, so I was kind of expecting more out of him. Keegan should be a great course fit. We know the tee to green's great, underrated around the green, but he doesn't have the best course history here. Mito, first timer here, but he's been awesome. So anyone else you guys like in that lower 8K range?
I do like Mito quite a bit. He's just so solid and very cool under pressure, except for, of course, the 18th hole at Southern Hills. I still don't understand what happened there. He just, he's so, consistent and safe, but I guess he decided to go for it and it just didn't work out. One little split moment. And, but other than that, he's just solid, and he's still at 8K a very good value. Now, Jack, if you mentioned earlier, are there some people you just have biases against, you just can't play? And for me, it will always be Keegan. And I like to watch a lot of golf now. I think I really enjoy the nonverbals. And Keegan just reeks of no confidence. He backs off, he twirls his clubs, he's twitchy. If I'm going to, and I think most bettors or, DFS, if you're playing DFS, you want somebody that's got confidence, who's got swagger, and Keegan just doesn't have it. It's just so nerve-wracking. So no Keegan for me today or probably ever.
Well, HV3's got a lot of, swagger and confidence, and that's not working for him
that's
too much
true.
either. So,
that's true.
No, but both Jordan guys. So maybe they got to work on their, Sunday finishes. But yeah, Mito, man, that was rough on 18 at the PGA. Like somebody said in the crowd, looked like he got electrocuted at impact. So maybe that's what happened. Somebody, gave him an electrocuted ball. I don't know. But Jacob, anyone else before we get into the 7Ks?
I like Mito. Don't like Keegan. Keegan prefers a draw off the tee. Can hit it both ways, but he usually hits a swinging draw. And I think that you might start taking a look at that, guys that hit it straight, or we always talk about approach shots, but they're set up by, where you can put it in the fairway. And the Masters historically has been a high draw, but there's no rough, right? So you can hit it and move it around there. But here there's rough. So maybe that's why Keegan has struggled there. Mito. Right in the hot hand, was lucky enough to go to the PGA, sat with Trae there for about 7 hours on the 18th hole, about to the point of like 220 out. It's a hard hole. I mean, he could have hit 3-wood and probably been in a playoff, but he would have had 225 to a hard green. He tried to make a swing that he thought he could with driver and just blocked a little bit. But yeah, I think Mito's obviously, I mean, if you don't like him he went and gave an interview after losing the PGA championship and heartfelt, and then a guy like Rory trunk slammed it when talking to anybody. That's another reason why I don't like Rory. But yeah, I mean, hard not to root for the guy. I hope he gets a win soon. I'll have a little bit of it.
Yeah, that was awesome seeing him do that interview. And he just owned it too. No excuses. I love that. And Jacob, to your point, I've always wanted to put something together where you track, everyone's ball flights, which way they like to move it. I think that'd be very useful, especially on courses like this where, one ball flight's maybe preferred over the other. So yeah, maybe we should get around to doing something like that here at Rotogrinders. I think that'd be pretty cool.
So I can add a piece to that. So there's a course management system by Will Zalatoris' coach, Scott Fawcett. I don't know if you follow him. He's kind of an interesting Twitter follow. But, his philosophy is you hit it one way off the tee and one way off the tee only. They're centering their shot pattern. And then from there, they can both hit draws or fades, on their approaches, but they predominantly hit it one way off the tee. So certain golf courses, you think back like Colonial, who won there more than anybody in the beginning of golf? Ben Hogan. Ben Hogan hit a high fade, right? John Rahm, high fade. So some of these guys play well at certain courses because of what they're comfortable hitting off the tee.
Yeah, I think that'd be interesting to track all that. And not by choice, but I hit it both ways off the tee, usually the wrong way. Yeah, okay, let's get into the 7Ks. Let's break it up 75 to 8, and then, we'll do 7 to 7,500. So, Trae, walk us through some ownership, and we'll go from there.
Billy Ho's not going to get much ownership. He's just I think I would prefer watching Keegan, get all jittery than Billy inching up to the ball every time. That just really irritates the hell out of me. Patrick Reed he's back. Is he back? He's getting greedy again. He's looking hungry. He's going to be back in our lives, it seems. So he's getting some buzz. Has history here, and he's been kind of somewhat contending of late. So he's going to have a little bit of steam here early in the week, as is Kuchar. Not a lot, but a little bit. Bryson, I think I don't know if he's going to play. If he does, is he going to make it for 4 rounds? I doubt it. So he's an easy X. I think I have less than 1% right out of the gate. Chris Kirk is going to be probably the chalk here. It just, the course seems to fit him. He doesn't have a lot of history here, but playing very well. T15 last week, of course, T5 in the PGA. So he is definitely going to be the chalk here in this range. Then we have Jason Day, who he lives here, right? Is he the only PGA pro that lives here? Maybe.
Yep.
But just never does it again. Maybe you should, check out of the house, check in a hotel, or do something just to get away. I don't know. He needs to try something different, but you would think he would do better here, but he just never has, and likely won't ever. But I like Leishman a little bit, and I think Wise is going to carry a decent amount of ownership, around 10%.
It's never good. I do my research before checking ownership. I have my favorite targets picked out, and then I see that they're the highest owned guys in this range. So I was hoping Patrick Reed was going to be my, dark horse of the week. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case. I mentioned switch back to his old driver, and then now he's gamed off the tee in 3 straight. So the rest of his game's been pretty good for a while now. I like Chris Kirk as well, but eating the chalk in this range doesn't always feel great. I won't be playing a ton of Kuchar. So he's gained 40 strokes on and around the green in his last 6 starts. I think he's lost ball striking during that stretch. I know he's great at this course, but with it being lengthened, I do worry about Kuchar a little bit. I like Aaron Wise. You mentioned, ball striking's just been so good. I'll probably go back to Alex Noren. He's one of those guys that I think a lot of people will be burned from the PGA that they won't go back to just because he's more of a short game guy. And then I also like Siwoo Kim in this range. Just a guy that he's played well here. 4 straight top 41 finishes. He's been a lot more consistent on tour. Very good tee to green. So those are the few of the guys that I'm looking at. Jacob, what about you?
So this is a range that for me early in the week, I think that I like. I don't like I'm not going to cross out anybody early in the week in this range. I think you can make a merit for having some of all of them. Putting 2 or 3 guys in this range in a roster gives you a lot of flexibility up top. I mean, I don't think you'd be surprised if any of these guys had a top 10 or better, right? So that's a pretty strong range. I mean, we got some pretty good. I mean, Mark Leishman, Jason Day, Bryson, if he plays, I mean, who knows, right? I mean, I've been watching him on Instagram for the last month, making swings in his backyard, looks healthy, but is he ready to play tournament golf? I get what you say about Kuchar, but I think he's someone that, again, I'm going to go back to this a couple times now. He likes to fade it. It's a fade around that golf course. He'll set up a lot of scoring opportunities. Another guy who likes to fade it. If you ever want to watch a fun practice session, watch Alex Noren hit golf balls. He despises anything that goes left, like maybe even anything that goes straight. He tries to hit a 20-yard slice, kind of like Bruce Litsky back in the day. So I like all those guys. I mean, I early in the week, I may, eventually scratch 1 or 2 of them off, but I kind of like sprinkling those guys in because it gives me a lot of room to get some exposure to guys that I really want at the top end.
I get more ball flight talk, which I love. Okay, lower 7Ks, Trae. Looks like there's not a lot of ownership down here.
No, it really evens out now. Past Aaron Wise, it really drops off. I don't think I have anybody over 10% for the rest of the way. Really evens out. Woodland is getting a little bit of buzz, perhaps, and he might get close to 10%, but I doubt it. But everybody else is, really not in that good form, and it's just a significant drop off here. Got Ricky there at 7-2, and I'm, being an OSU alum, I always have a soft spot in my heart for any Cowboy out there. And Ricky showing signs, driving good, approaching decent, can't putt with a crap, but and looking really strong in the Sunday orange, but. God, I wish he could, just give us a little bit more, Ricky. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. And just, we need a big win here, and just get up on the podium and say no to live golf, and it's going to stick to the PGA Tour, and we'll all be happy. Please, Ricky, we need that. Okay. Beyond that, it just really drops off. There we have Brian Harmon at 7-1. God, I was way low on him last week on projected ownership. I had no idea he'd be so highly owned. And man, first round was he 7 over par, just completely out of it right out of the gate. That's really going to, upset people. He's, he may get 5%. I'm not sure, but seeing a little bit of buzz here early for Luke List, kind of surprised me a little bit there. But I just don't see too much more down here, really. Scott Stallings probably not going to do much. Got a course history play here, perhaps, in Kevin Streelman at, I'm down at 6'8". Sorry about that.
Oh, that's just fine. So, I mean, yeah, from a modeling standpoint, there's not a lot that stands out in this range. Maybe that's why not a ton of ownership early in the week. I think CT Pan's interesting. He's been consistent, hitting fairways, very good with the irons. You mentioned Ricky Fowler. It doesn't take a lot for me to get on to Ricky Fowler. And look at his course history, T15 or better in 4 of the last 5 years here. He's made 3 straight cuts. Every time I play him, he does not treat me well. So I'm ready to be hurt again, Ricky. But yeah, we'd love to see you win. Cam Davis has been a little bit better recently. He's interesting. But man, Jacob, help me out here. I don't love anyone down here?
I think I'm always have a little bit of Straka moving forward. Guy's already won. So, I mean, you start thinking about what am I buying at that price? So he's a guy, he's a good ball striker, strong. Like, if you've ever seen him in person, he's built like John Rahm, right? So you think about, okay, low ownership. What do I need at this price to pay off? I like guys like Straka. I like Ricky. Trae's pretty much admitted that if Ricky wins again, he'll be all orange for about a month. He has enough orange stuff. He'll just go solid for a whole month straight.
Maybe 3 weeks. A month is pushing.
What about the mustache? Can we get that going too?
Oh, that would be awesome. I would love
Trae,
it.
are you in?
Sure, whatever, Ricky.
What
just win. I'll do it. I'll do the little mullet thing. Whatever you want.
I mean, is he that? I don't think he's that far off. I mean, if you look at COVID affected a lot of people in different ways. Ricky made a swing change, a coach change at the end of the 2019 season, went from Harmon to someone else. And then I think he's just kind of really, really struggled. So if you believe in the pedigree, right, if you think that this is a player that can eventually find his way, I mean, the line between success and failure out there is really small. So a couple of good weeks and, he could be a guy that's 8.5, So I think that, especially course history, right? A guy that, he's got enough upside and I don't think you'll have to be very strong on the ownership to get some leverage, right? That's the good part about this range. I think you have to, when you start looking down here in this range and below, you have to ask yourself, okay, what is my highest outcome for this player? And look at that in terms of ownership. Can guys win? And there's a few guys that you could say could challenge for a win or definitely top 25 in this range. But I think that's the way you've got to approach this. Narrow your pool, because after this, there's a lot of weak players that I don't think can win this week.
All right, I do like the Straka call. He's a guy that tends to show up, on the leaderboards a lot, especially when he makes the cut. Ricky, same swing coach as one of the foreplay guys. I don't know if you guys listen to that podcast. Trent, he was trying to break 100, so he went and saw Ricky's coach, John Tillery. I think Kevin Kisner is part of that group too, and he broke 100. So maybe some good vibes for that crew there. But let's get into the 6Ks. We'll just treat the whole range itself because there's not a ton to love down here. So who's getting some buzz? Trae, and anyone you have your eye on.
Right now, I mentioned Kevin Streelman. He's got some decent course history and performed pretty well here. He had a decent showing at the PGA, fell off a little bit on the 4th round, but it's really drops off down here. Adam Hadwin perhaps could get 6 to 8% ownership in the end. Have Johnny Vegas there, might generate close to 4 to 5% in the end. Ramey's playing a little bit better at 6.6. Probably the best one so far would be Brendan Steele. Steele might push 10% here. I think he'll probably get 10% by Tuesday or Wednesday and maybe fall off a little bit from that towards the end of the week. But really, thins out. We have Thigala, who, he can make a cut. He struggles the 3rd or 4th round, but he's lingering. He's there. He's competing and a good field player. Please, no, Wolf. Just, Wolf is. We want Wolf to do well, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon. He's having some troubles and maybe on and off the course. So we need to just give him some time. And maybe a little bit of Neesmith. He might get close to 4 or 5% by the end of the week.
Did Adam Long end up being popular last week? Do you remember?
I don't actually. He was. I think he was about 7 or 8%. I'll check real quick. No, he fell to 4.15% last week.
Okay. Everything pointed to him, and I was worried that he was going to be chalky. So one of those, not just yet again, I talked myself out of a guy because of ownership. But to your point,
Adam Long's a great example of a guy who just can't defend the chalk. It's so easy to get away from a guy like Adam Long, and so, those are easy to pivot away from.
Defend the chalk. That'd be a good article series if you need more work for us, Trae.
Okay, yeah. It's really kind of blown up here in the last year and a half or so. Just guys like Adam Long just can't defend the chalk, but guys up top, I mean, they can. The guys down below, 6,500 to 7,000. Everybody just gets off that cheap chalk. Nobody, even the noobs, know that cheap chalk is not good chalk. Just get off of that quick. By Tuesday or Wednesday, you got to get off. But the upper echelon of the pricing tiers, there's definitely good chalk that people will they'll eat it and they'll go with it and they'll hold.
Love it. And I like to think that this show's helped push that fade the cheap chalk narrative over the years, because we've always tried to do that. So Brendan Still, like you mentioned, he's going to be popular, but his last 5 starts, he's gained 9, 5, 12, and 7 strokes ball striking. So we know he's a good ball striker. He's been, decent around these parts. He's somewhat interesting. I like Lucas Glover. He's gained over 8 strokes ball striking each of his last 2 starts. And he's not a good putter by any means, but he's better on bent grass than he is on the other 2 surfaces. Tigala, like you mentioned, I like that he played here last year. So it's not his first time, and he finished T32. So that's promising. And then Vegas always rates out well for me. He has struggled a little bit. He came off some arm surgery, I think, and then played well the first week, struggled the next 2 weeks. So I'm not sure what to do with him yet. Strillman, like you mentioned, seems like a safe play, but he has burned me a lot of times over the years. So Jacob, tell us who we're playing that's not going to burn us down here.
So let's go a little GPP dumpster diving, right? So golf, obviously non-position sport. We're not afraid if we get a cheap tight end, plug them in, right? Or something along the way that opens up value in our rosters. But small field, 120 man field this week. So if you want to unlock some plays at the top, I'm not opposed to sprinkling in guys like Jason Duffner, 6,100, decent course fit, played here a lot. You're talking made cut, top 40 finish. If you unlock the top guys, it could be a guy that allows you to squeeze in a lot of value at the top. Guys that you haven't mentioned that I kind of like a little bit, Danny Willett. He's won in the last 8 months in the world. Has a decent course history there. Played last 3 years, hasn't finished outside of the top 35. I would take that at 6,200. And then I've kind of been always trying to have a little bit of Alex Smalley, 6,400. Another, I don't know if the right term, call them kind of like these fearless sort of rookies. I mean, they just feel like, you look at it, at least from like what I do for a living, teaching golf, these guys come out, and girls too, come out so ready to play at every level. They're better than what Jack and these guys played when they were growing up. So they come out and they're ready. So a guy like that, I mean, although he hadn't had any course time, I mean, somebody that I kind of want a little bit of every week.
I really like the Danny Willett call. Somebody that never, ends up being very popular. So that should just about do it. Are there any final thoughts or hot takes you guys want to throw out there?
Matthew Wolff, low poke.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm off that one. But I'll say Ricky Fowler, top 10.
Ooh, I would love it. All right. So if you want to follow these guys on Twitter, 2 great golf minds. Jacobs is at Hondizzle with 3 Z's, correct?
Correct.
And then Trae Schwabe at Trae Schwabe.
That's right.
All right. So best of luck this week at the Memorial Tournament. I'll be around all week to answer any and all questions. If you are a premium member, hop in the Discord. It's a lot of fun in the golf channel. Just answering questions, talking strategy, all that fun stuff. All of our content will be posted throughout the week. The ownership will be updated throughout the week. And we appreciate you joining us. So for Trae, for Jacob, I'm Noto, and we are out of here.